Which brings me to the ninth value, which is to give the gift of time. Now, I mean, one thing that we say is that if time is not structured at the beginning of each shift on the ward with staff delegated to meet up with people, it's just not going to happen, folks. It's just not going to happen. It will remain this sort of ad hoc thing. And what about this thing of the gift of time? Because I think a lot of what you're saying applies to that, giving time to people and that being our highest priority. Is it the highest priority on the wards as they're run at the moment, giving the gift of time to people, or not? So perhaps just have a brief discussion around that.
It's the quality of time. You can give people time, but if that interaction is not based on some sort of shared humanness, some sort of human connection, then I think you're wasting your time.
I think it's what Joanne said earlier. You know, it's got to be prioritised, and that's partly down to management. It's management making it possible for nursing staff to actually to do this. And Tracy's right. It's because the danger of making like targets. You know, you've got to spend half an hour with somebody, half an hour, and they're both reading the newspaper or counting the minutes. It's actually, you know, seeing it as important, seeing it as a valuable use of one's time. I mean, the nurses, talking to people is the most useful thing they can do on the ward. It's not something which should be done after all the other essential tasks are finished.
You often see, I go into some wards sometimes where they have a glass screen, and the nurses stand behind the glass screen with their notes on the shelf, and through the glass screen on the other side there's the patients sitting around in the sitting area, and just the design of the ward seems crazy to me. I don't understand it. And as for quality of time, I think it's really important to be sensitive about this. If a service user wants to talk about his problems for a long time, that's fine. But if other more informal chat happens, that can be very valuable in itself. You just need to go with the flow and see what seems to be the best way of relating and engaging with this person. And filling in the form mustn't be the actual raison d'etre for giving the time. The time is given to the patient, and you work out between you how it is to be spent. And the form is, you know, what you do by the by, but it's not the be-all and end-all of what you give the time for.
Could I say that for many nurses, they do find paperwork like this a barrier, partially because they're not used to doing it.
I'm sure they do.
But it's something we have to get past, because the other side of that is, from a nurse management point of view, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. So this is why, as well as the importance of being in the person's own words.
I think it's the paperwork can still be there, but I think what's important is the way it's done and how you make people feel while you're doing the form filling in.
Exactly, because that was good about the interview, I thought. The form was there as a prompt and a reminder, but it wasn't the be-all and end-all, because it is so easy once you get paperwork, and I'm obsessional, and you know, it's got to be filled in, and that becomes the focus instead of something to assist the actual process of the interview.
And to inform the patient as to why it is there.
From my experience, it's all very well to have a named nurse that you have a conversation with 3 times a week, which is been brought in some places now. But the trouble is, if it's not, you know, you've got to get the right named nurse, because it could be someone you've got nothing in common with, or it could be something that would be sort of quite the opposite, really, of helpful. So
it's the importance of knowing the person you're talking to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that you don't make these kinds of things.
And feeling comfortable with that person, you know. There might be personality clashes.
Yes. It's a very, very difficult practical issue. How and when you would try and do something about that particular issue if you really don't get on with your name nurse, I do not know.